Happening. There we go.
Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
Oof, I'm here, brother. It's been a while since we've done a radio show. It's been a
It
while.
sure has. It's been a sec, and just we've been busy. That's how it is, right? Like you've been busy with
I
work. I've been busy with like work stuff too, honestly. And
the first night I gave up on doing it, Kevin, it was like 10 degrees out all day long. I worked outside for 10 hours. And my legs start cramping right before we're gonna do the show. I have no like internet connectivity, and I'm like, this can't happen. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Like
what
this is
what Tim's
bad.
saying is he's getting old. And
It's a fact, man. I don't have that limitless energy anymore.
yeah, no, but you've been busy, and going to hotels with terrible internet connection, and I don't know. I imagine working all day in 10-degree weather. Yeah, it can take a toll on you.
Oh, it does. If in a way, it's like feels good to be like get through a day like that successfully, but like
Mm-hmm.
your batteries get drained like big time, and then you get to a warm hotel room, and you're just like, you know what I'm gonna do? I just want to go to sleep. I'm gonna eat a slice of pizza, and I'm gonna fall asleep, bro.
Yep. And Shelly on YouTube says, "Good evening. Final show? Question mark. Yeah." And the title says "Final Radio Show."
Cuts right to the point.
That's right.
Absolutely,
Hey, I
yeah.
mean, we put in there. We're upfront about what this is. So, kind of on the topic that Tim and I are talking about, like that's been going on with him, with me. I've been working crazy hours and trying to build up business. And between two of that, Tim and I had a discussion like back in October where we're kind of like, well, we either need to like figure out a way to grow the show a lot if we're going to keep doing the radio thing, or we're going to start to move away from radio. And we made an attempt at growing the show to a national audience, but kind of two things happened. One, we didn't get the immediate sponsor support that we're hoping for. And two, I think we both kind of realized we might not be able to do this every single week just because of where we're at, with work and with life. So yeah, we're ending the radio show. This is going to be the last show that's going to be on WYSL for now, right? Like again, WYSL, they've been awesome partners. I've been doing shows with them since like 2018. I've been doing shows with them forever, and they were sad that we were ending the show and ended it with, we'd love to have you back anytime. So this isn't to say that Tim and I aren't going to do shows occasionally. Just probably not going to be every single week. So we may still do.
Or maybe more convenient time every week if we just like grab an hour or two on a Saturday or something like that. I would love that. That would be fine. The radio format always like stressed me out anyway. So it's like, and I loved being on the radio. I loved the time that those guys get. I loved interacting with the two Bobs. Like it's a great concept. It's just, I think what it would take for us to be successful at it, Kevin, is to not like our real jobs, quit them, and try to sell advertising for a radio show. And I love my job, I love my job, and that's the bottom line. Like I feel very blessed to have the job that I have, and I enjoy it. So that's another issue, right? Like we
I mean, it's either like you retire and or my wife gets a job where she makes like much more money and can subsidize like my radio show. Like,
and you stay home and watch the kids. Like
like that. That's the goal. I tried to convince her to do that, and so far she hasn't done that.
She's not gonna.
Yeah, I know. So
that's
you
unfair.
can just work all the time, and I will stay home with the boys and do my radio show. No, didn't work out that way.
Yeah. So,
but so that's what it is. Again, we've loved doing the show. It's great talking to Tim every week, and it's great talking to all of you every week too. So we're gonna do one more for y'all and for the radio audience. And so if you're listening online, we're gonna say our goodbyes again to the radio audience too. We'll kick off the show with that, but most of it we're gonna be most of the time we're going to be talking about the news as we do every week. Matthew says, no sugar mama for Kevin. No.
I have an inverse sugar mama. She spends all of her money and some of mine. And she works her butt off. I love her. It's fine.
Yeah. Shelly, those kids tend to be addicted to food, clothing, and shelter. Yeah, they do like that.
They're selfish. Selfish little
I know, right?
Things with needs. It's crazy.
That's true. But yeah, that's how it goes, y'all. So we're gonna there you go.
There we go. We got a potential sales guy for us if we claim some time in the Orlando radio market. My buddy, confounding variable Marv. Thank you.
Yeah, I said maybe one day. Like again, we're gonna keep doing this as just as a podcast. So if you like this, we've got to figure out what our new regular time is to figure this out. But I said maybe one day we go back to radio. It's a good way to reach big audiences. Like we were working on being out there in like Atlanta and Seattle and LA and stuff too. Like we had a broker and everything, but it just didn't work out. So that's how it goes. But
I just let's be clear though. I don't feel like we just didn't have the time to do the sales part of it. Like I don't know that it would have worked or wouldn't work.
No, I mean, like, we probably, if we had really put in the time to do it, like, maybe we could have, but neither of us are willing to.
You've got kids and I've got 100 hours a week committed to like being out of town and on the road and building pretty cool commercial solar applications that will protect us from Canadian tariffs on energy.
No, good.
See, I'm seeing the benefits from this Trump tariffs already. The Canadian retribution, solar demand is going to go through the roof.
Yes.
So much winning.
At least Tim's company gets subsidized, and isn't that what we all really wanted?
Hey, you're
like, yeah, I mean, kind of.
I mean, hey, I tried not being in the subsidized business for a long time. This is better.
Sure. All right. Hold on. I accidentally like bumped something, so now I got to make sure all my stuff is connected again. All right. I think I'm all right. But okay. So we're gonna get to the actual show in a minute. And again, if you're listening online, we're gonna say our goodbyes to the radio audience too. But then jump into tariffs, executive orders, and I put as a third topic like predictions. All right. So we're not gonna be doing the radio show. Wild predictions for the next year.
All right,
let's go there. That's a segment 3 topic.
Yeah, I've got one. It's gonna be interesting because it's gonna tie right into everything we're talking about. I'll try not to make it before the third section.
All right, let's go.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wiltshire today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
Oof, I'm here, brother, and it's been a few weeks that we have missed talking to our radio audience. Like I was saying in the pregame warm-up, I have been incredibly busy. I love my job. The weather's been brutal, and as Kevin pointed out, I am getting older, guys. Like, that's a reality.
Believe it or not. I mean, you on the radio audience can't see this because, like, I mean, you probably just assumed from his voice that Tim is a spry young man, full of vitality, and yet complains about working in the cold.
That this is a reality, and there were times when I pulled off the show, or at least attended the show, where I don't think I was fully mentally invested in the show anyway. There's when you're working on the road. There's internet connection troubles. There's lots of things that are going on that make it for a stressful experience. Whereas, like, to compare and do our podcast and just relax and have good conversations with people, I think that's something that's still in the future for us. I think our cards are still there. Like, I don't think we're turning our back on that.
So Tim's kind of let out the headline here. Is that this folks, is going to be our last show on WYSL for at least a little while, right? So we're calling it quits on the Thursday 8 p.m. spots and the reruns on WYSL and our other partners. And we so unfortunately we're done with the radio show for now. Not just because of Tim's, also like I've got the same thing going on too, right? I'm trying to make money, take care of my kids, and we just weren't able to don't feel like we're able to put the investment in the show that we want. Now, I will say that like we're gonna keep doing this as a podcast on a different schedule. So if you have enjoyed listening to this show, make sure you check out our podcast, A Free Solution. We're still going to be releasing episodes, just probably not every week as we have been, and it might be at a different time than we normally have been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah. But, Tim and I are going to try to put ourselves in a position to keep doing a good show and maybe be well rested and not at the end of an exhausting day. So we can put out something good for y'all.
So that on that note, though, I just want to say that the product is wonderful. The managerial staff, the two Bobs are fantastic human beings. I wish this radio station concept the best of luck. I wish those guys the best of luck. They were so tolerant of my misfires early on. They really were.
Same here. It was a good opportunity to learn. I've been doing this. I started doing this with actually way back. I started guest hosting for Shannon Joy's show way back when on WYSL, and then ended up co-hosting with Andrew on Radio Free New York, and then that turned into A Free Solution, which I was sharing with Larry, and then eventually you too. You're doing your solo shows on that. We do a show together, and then we've been doing this together for a few years now. So it's a bummer to see it on a WYSL, but like it's been a privilege and an honor to like be on the show, to work with Bob Savage and Bob D'Angelo, and everyone else. And again, Thursdays 8 p.m. Like there's going to be a great show. We're placing it too. I think it might be at Sharpway.
Okay.
It's like so Larry shows might be there too. Which is a great show if you haven't caught that in a while, but could be something else too, but that's one of the options. And but yeah, no, it's been amazing, and we're gonna miss talking to y'all every week. But again, if you like what you've heard, Tim and I are gonna be releasing this as a podcast, just maybe a little less often.
Yeah. And maybe we'll be able to get a little wilder with our commentary. Sometimes I feel a little constrained by the radio format, and so I'm always
FCC. No.
Those are the things, right? Those are the things that leave me with concerns. I certainly don't want to get the two Bobs in hot water. I certainly don't want to damage the WYSL brand, but I think I oftentimes go back through my mind and say, man, I wish I could have.
It's gonna stress me out. Tim's like, man, I've been holding back on the conspiracy stuff, right? Like I've been holding back to not get the station in trouble, and guess what? Guess what? Nothing's holding me back now. I'm gonna go nuts.
We're free birds, Kevin. We're free birds.
Oh no,
Skinner is playing in my brain right now.
Oh no, what am I in for? Anyway, so speaking of just doing whatever you want, we are going to get into our topics for the day, which are Trump's tariffs and executive orders. So if you haven't seen the news lately, it looks like the U.S. government is moving ahead with tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. A 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, and a 10% tariff on China. And this was done by executive order. In theory, this is done with a national security justification that the president can unilaterally impose tariffs for national security reasons. And so that's what we have. So, Tim, how do you feel about the tariffs generally? And you could break it down to anyone too. Canada, Mexico, China, whichever.
Well, arguably, there's absolutely the libertarian baseline is that all taxes are bad. Taxation is theft. That all taxation is borne by the productive middle class in whatever country you're tariffing. Okay, so if we tariff China to the tune of 10%, that makes it to the middle class, productive class's bottom line in the United States, and we pay the freight on that. Okay. Now, The same goes for Canada. The same goes for Mexico. There's parts of this, Kevin, though, that I've got to admit that are entertaining to me. And like I said back 5 shows ago, I talked to a guy in Hartford, Connecticut, who has an underutilized local manufacturing facility, who feels like he does not care one bit about tariffs. He knows that some of the prices of his raw materials may go up, but he feels like that he knows of other underutilized custom manufacturing shops that, with some winks, nudges, and looks the other way on environmental policy, they can go automatically into producing some of these goods that he needs for a price that will be just as affordable as it already is. He's already felt the brunt of Biden's tariffing regime and the games that they've played. So he does not give one flying F about the threat of tariffs. So from that perspective, I want to get somebody else's take on it, because I liked what that guy had to say.
So, could be wrong, but I think setting this individual guy's business aside, which I think we talked about, because I suspect that some costs will rise for that, but I think across the board, costs will rise for a lot of businesses, small, medium, and large, right? Like, because materials that go into stuff are sometimes imported from other countries, and it makes more sense to do that depending on where you are and what the material is. So like a lot of lumber comes from Canada, a lot of like minerals come from Canada. It's just they have the infrastructure to do that. Sometimes it's cheaper and better to import it from Canada than it is to import it from like another part of the country, right?
Sure.
And those input costs are going to make the cost of finished goods go up, which is probably going to mean that, what happens when the cost of your goods go up? There's a chance that people buy fewer things.
Most likely.
Yeah. I mean, maybe your profit margins go up, you add more, but chances are people are going to buy more stuff. And, and what's going to happen with, with stuff that there's a little bit more inelastic demand. Okay. Like the stuff that we would import, like vehicles or something like that. Well, like, oh, you could buy American, but the American companies are probably going to match the increased cost of those vehicles. And that just means that you and I are going to be paying more money for it. Like at the end of the day, like for things like, I was at Costco today battling over toilet paper. No, I'm just kidding. They had plenty there. But that's something that comes from Canada too. It's like I looked at it. It's like, is it made in Canada? Okay. So my toilet paper is going to go up, 25%? Yeah, I know that's like not a big thing, but if you do that across like dozens of goods that you're buying on a regular basis, like that adds up. That means that is more expensive for like me to get my basic needs met for my family. And for a lot of people, that's going to be like the difference between going into debt or, like losing their home. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal when you raise taxes by this much. And I know it's not every single good, and there are sometimes American alternatives, but it's going to make stuff more expensive for people. And I don't know that it's worth the trade-off of maybe it'll help American manufacturing, because I'm not sure that it's the tariff as it is now is designed to really do that effectively.
I think that it's a bull in a china shop approach. I want to be clear about that. I do think that Trump is a bull in a china shop. Some of it again makes me laugh, but I do think we'll get to a point very quickly where certain issues that prevent American productivity will be getting revisited. Okay, there are environmental regulations that prevent, and make incredibly more expensive harvesting of American timber. And if some of those were to happen to get like disappeared through executive order, we have guys with trucks and chainsaws ready to go. Like they're already making a living hauling wood. One more load of wood a day is just more money in their pocket. Now, I know that that's simplistic, but there is when libertarians, and you're not doing this, but other libertarians just, and lots of people now on the left want to go, tariffs bad. They are bad. All right. But there's a certain amount of reality that if we highlight some of the other obstacles to productivity of the American innovator and the American entrepreneur, we could get some breathing room. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, I don't think you have to raise tariffs in order to do that. I think if you want to make America more competitive, make America more competitive. The way to make America more competitive isn't to like raise the cost of everything, and including, again, the raw materials that go into like American goods that they're trying to sell abroad too, that's now more expensive, making American manufacturing less competitive. Just make it easier to do business here. You want to make American lumber more competitive? Yeah, just do what you're talking about. Like, let's change the regulations on like how much timber you can harvest and when you can harvest it, or like whatever, right? Like there's different ways that you can do that and be more effective. And I'd rather see Trump go down that route, or Congress, better yet, go down that route of, hey, let's re-examine what's making it harder for Americans to like produce and sell more here.
Yeah, to be clear, that is a far better strategy. To be 100% clear, to get Americans competitive again, take a hard look at environmental regulations and how we're already the cleanest producer in the world and how we're already the lowest per unit producer of carbon in the world. We're an incredibly clean, incredibly resourceful, incredibly productive people. And some of these obstacles that are in the way of American ingenuity are, in fact, our own government and a certain amount of paranoia, grifting, and like nonsense statistics about how to handle the climate. And so
Well, I mean,
I'm with you on this. You're right. This is a better way. I don't see how we get there without some sort of childish nonsense.
Yeah. So let me get to a comment quick, and then I'll kind of go back into like do these like even make sense to accomplish the goals that like the Trump administration is saying. So one of these, Matthew says on Facebook, I would trade the IRS income tax for tariffs any day of the week. I mean, I think Trump said that he's going to create an external revenue service that's going to handle tariffs, which is funny. I think I heard libertarians make a joke like I wanted to abolish the IRS. I did not want two IRSs.
He's so adorable like that. My God, and I don't mean that as a compliment. It's just adorable how he says stuff like that.
But I don't like the goal of using the tariffs as revenue generation and also like making American companies more competitive are kind of at odds with each other, though, right? So like if you are if you're setting tariffs up so they collect revenue, then okay, you need to kind of set those like low enough so that like people still keep buying goods from outside to raise money, right? But if you make the tariffs too high, if you make them 25, 100%, he's talking about 1,000%, everyone's gonna be like, okay, well, I guess I'm just not going to buy that stuff anymore, and then you won't raise any money from that. So you, again, like tariffs, just from like a logical mathematical perspective, you have to pick one or the other. Either it's a revenue generating tool, or it's a tool of industrial policy where you're using the government to manipulate winners and losers and try to
protect
affect positive. And I've seen people like make this argument for like, hey, we need to do this with chips manufacturing because it's too dangerous to be reliant on China or Taiwan. We need to develop. Okay, like I still don't think it's going to work, but like I can get that. Or like we need tariffs on China because we're funding like their government. Like I can at least have a conversation with folks on that one. But
well, it's working flawlessly for politicians in Syracuse. Like they have spent billions of dollars and not placed a rock in the ground, not moved one piece of dirt. Okay, so the game of subsidizing businesses that we want absolutely is a game for con men to come in and make money, and it has been forever, just like high-speed rail, Kevin.
I agree. I agree. High-speed rails like that. A lot of chips manufacturing is turning that, like the Inflation Reduction Act and CHIPS Act, stuff like that. Just huge opportunity for grift. But here's the thing: so are tariffs, right? Because what's happening now that tariffs are in place, everyone's asking for exemptions. Elon Musk is asking for an exemption to the tariffs for his materials. Gee whiz, I wonder how they're going to get those exemptions, right? Like at best, they're going to be appealing to Donald Trump's ego. At worst, it's like, gold bars and a senator's pants. Like, again.
And look, the roads around the tariffs on China are already well established. Okay, we are using solar panels made in China, trafficked through Vietnam, distributed to Canada with a slight bit of packaging and reassembling, and then shipped to the United States. Like there's already like this game is already being played. So So I guess Vietnam benefits. Like these alternative routes are going to benefit.
Yeah,
Now,
it just
the direct tariffs on Mexico and Canada have me slightly concerned that my Canadian friends are not going to be able to get Kentucky bourbon, Kevin.
I know. Well, it's the retaliatory tariffs and the retaliatory embargoes on that stuff. The prime minister of or not prime minister, premier
Ottawa?
of British, I think it was British Columbia.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it's British Columbia. Said that they're gonna ban like alcoholic products from red states in the government-owned liquor stores, which is all right. Cool. We're gonna take away Canadians' ability to drink American liquor. Great. Like this is government control freaks everywhere. No, that like Canada ain't always doing it right either. Like
no. And look, there are tariffs. The tariffs exist already now on from Canada on U.S. goods and from Mexico on U.S. goods, and those are bad policies as well.
Yeah, they are.
So when we get to the prediction part of the show, I'll have an interesting prediction that deals with this issue.
But
so it's absolutely adorable, Kevin. What's going on? It's hilarious.
No, it's wild, and we'll talk about some like the hypocrisy maybe in the next segment. But I think my big I think like in terms of the tariffs that make sense. Like China, like there's some reasons to do that. Like I get it. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's going to make stuff more expensive. But like I get at least the logic of doing that. Now Mexico, less of a reason. The reasons outlined are basically like, well, we need to like convince them to help us in immigration and like fentanyl trafficking and things like that. Okay, so it's a war on drugs thing and a war on immigrants thing. Okay, there's like sort of a reason for that, and then they try to use the same reason in Canada, and I'm like, Canada isn't like that significant of a source of illegal immigration or drug trafficking. Like it's not zero, but it's also not like
43 pounds. Yeah, 43 pounds of fentanyl were seized at the Canadian border in the course of 2024, which, because fentanyl is such a condensed and potent drug, is not an incredibly insignificant amount. But I would presume, according to the poundage that actually does get consumed illegally in the United States, it may be a statistical non-existent issue. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right,
they got
exactly.
some coming in. But
yeah, it's going to be a lot harder to smuggle it in through Canada. They have like more effective law enforcement and less like, actual gangs just running entire regions. I mean, unless you consider like British Columbia gang because they have the liquor trade. But, besides that.
Because they have a government, I consider them an organized gang.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
So,
just to be clear.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I just the reasons for Canada are a little bit more head scratching. Like I don't know, man. It's a lot of stuff coming in and out, and like they've been like relatively friendly in it. Like I don't really get what we're trying to get out of them, right?
If I was king for one day, I would tariff Canada 100% because Justin Trudeau is so epically, absurdly annoying. Like I would
Tim,
just
it doesn't matter. Justin Trudeau being a dork is not a good reason to like make Americans' lives more expensive. To make their housing more expensive and their groceries more expensive. No, it's not a good reason. It's a bad reason.
It's a great reason.
I suspect that might be like half of the actual reason too. Like I'm not kidding, but like it's a bad reason.
It may be a bad reason, but it's worth it. Like that guy's got it coming, Kevin. I can't stand that guy.
They're about to kick him out. He already like is out.
Still,
but
they kept him in there for too long.
The Conservatives are probably going to win.
Yeah, they deserve.
But anyway, we're out of time for this segment. Thanks again for joining us here on WYSL for a free solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. All right. Shelley agreed. Make Trudeau look worse. It's not going to make him look bad. He's just like, guys, we've been relatively friendly for a while. We just renegotiated a trade deal last time Trump was president. Like, what's up? Like, what's like? I honestly think it makes him look better with Canadians because then he gets to lean on the Canadian nationalism thing. Like, that's what they're doing. And yeah,
but then they deserve to be punished for having him as a leader for so long.
But no, that's not a good reason. It's not a good reason to punish American companies.
I'm not saying whether it's a good or a bad reason. I'm saying that I don't like Justin Trudeau, and that that is a good enough reason.
No.
Philosophically and morally are irrelevant to my emotional state, Kevin.
Yeah, fair. I mean, again, I suspect that there's a lot of people who unironically agree with that. Just not great.
Yeah. Not great. Sure, not great. Not operating in the angels of our better nature, yet it still feels good. It doesn't. It's just funny. Like, let's just put it that way. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
We gotta get into these Trump executive orders, bro.
We do have to get into those.
This is hilarious.
All right, wild set of those, and then just the tariffs thing. Like, again, we got Bernie Sanders out here being like, "Oh, these tariffs are bad." I'm like, bro,
wow.
what?
Whoa, Bernie, bro.
Bernie, communist Bernie is like, well, man, I'm not even that much against free trade.
And it's just, look.
I don't actually believe him, to be clear.
To be clear, Bernie is sincere. Yeah, Bernie represents his donors to the best of his ability. Some of his donors are anti-Trump. Some of his donors are big pharma. Some of his donors are union people. So it doesn't really, there's no allegiance to truth. There's only an allegiance to representation to the people who are funding his campaign coffers. That's all I see from Bernie. I thought he was an interesting figure back in 2016. I no longer think that.
I see. I don't even think it's like a donor thing. I think it's just like a negative polarization thing. Like, a bunch of his constituents are mad at Trump right now, and Trump is doing a thing. So do the opposite of that thing.
I find his messaging to be remarkably supportive of his favorite industries, though. So I get what you're saying. I like the fact that we can manipulate people into being more libertarian by making them hate the guy that's the president. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it would be like the problem with that is that Trump actually does the harmful thing, the anti-libertarian thing, that despite the fact that he is an official honorary member of the Libertarian Party now. Congratulations, folks. We got a libertarian president.
We do. Congratulations.
Big L libertarian.
Yep, Big L.
Now, I don't know if he said yes to this honorary membership. He might have been like, what?
You don't get to say yes. You just it's bequeathed upon you,
Yeah, it's just, just recognizing how libertarian he is, the guy who raised our taxes and, started a new bombing campaign in Somalia this weekend. Awesome.
Oh, did he? I didn't catch that.
Oh, yeah, he sure did. Maybe we'll get to that too. But anyway, I won't get into that. I don't know. Scratch my head, the tariffs. We'll see if the Democrats can stick around long enough to actually peel back the president's power to do this. The only one on the Republican side talking about that's Rand Paul, who I suspect is running in 2028. So he's rediscovering his libertarian roots.
Certainly, libertarian messaging helps sway elections on some level. So I get it. He should. It'll help him.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great. Like he's talking about, hey, I've got a bill that we can make it so that only Congress can raise tariffs. Cool, man. We should have done that. Democrats, you should have done that last year. You knew this was coming, but you didn't want to take away Biden's power to do that because Biden was raising tariffs left and right. But that was for good reasons, though. So
yeah, when we get into the executive order, I want to run through that because there's a certain distinct irresponsibility where they get to advocate for bad ideas and yet not bear any consequences for trying to legislate those bad ideas. So
yeah,
I think we should cover that with the radio folks too.
Yeah, no, let's do it. So we'll get back into that in just a minute. And all right, let's go back in. Yeah, now. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, brother. And we're going to be on the very exciting topic of, I don't know, he made something like 75 or 80 executive orders in his first week here.
There's a whole list on Wikipedia. One of our listeners posted it earlier. It's like, oh yeah, I should pull that up. Hold on.
Yeah, I did. I have one listed from NPR, so we can start discussing from either the Wikipedia page or the NPR page. Matters not to me.
Yeah. Whichever you want. What's your favorite executive order so far?
Well, see, you're putting me on the spot right away. There was some executive order, and I didn't where Donald Trump stood up for free speech. And that to me was the most libertarian thing that he could do, that he was being a free speech absolutist. And I wish I could find the details of it. Are you seeing it on the Wikipedia one?
The free speech one. Restoring freedom of speech and ending federal
There it is.
censorship. Is that the one?
That's the one.
What does that one actually do? Does that actually protect free speech, or is it one of those things where they say it's protecting free speech, but what it actually is governing government control over social media or something?
Well, yeah. In this order, President Trump asserts the federal government's commitment to the First Amendment right to freedom of speech and bars federal employees from interfering with that right. The order also directs the Attorney General to investigate and seek remedial actions for the federal government's activities in the last 4 years that were inconsistent with this order's promise, which I'm not sure that's how that works, but that's absolutely adorable. I mean, he wants to go back and be like, hey, I made an executive order in 2025, and I'm going to punish you for behavior that contradicts this executive order that you took in 2022. I mean, I don't know that piece of it's going to work. I do like the grandiose notion that he's going to stand up for free speech, that to highlight the fact that what happened at Facebook and Twitter and probably all of the other social media platforms was a bit of a government overreach, wholly inappropriate.
The Biden administration power. Yeah, the Biden administration job owning thing, not great.
Yeah.
Now, is Donald Trump going to do the same thing? Yeah, maybe. He's just going to do it for his side. That's my worry with it. But
he'll do it on Truth Social. And like it will be all part of the zeitgeist, and so that'll be different.
I mean, he's got his social media. He's like, well, with TikTok, like I know the law says that like it's supposed to be banned today, which I was against. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to broker a deal. Okay, man. All right, you're gonna just not follow the law because you want to be a part of the deal. Cool. I'm sensing a pattern with him doing that. He likes being the deal maker.
Yeah. What?
So there's that. I mean, there's some of them like I can kind of get around to, right? And this will be like controversial, like withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization.
What's controversial about that?
What's controversial about that? So here's how normal people look at that, which is that the World Health Organization is going out and like providing medical care around the world and doing things to prevent the next pandemic. But like, as you and I know, and probably many listeners to the show know, like they did not do a great job in response to COVID. Like they didn't. And like, frankly, they were complicit in covering up the fact that the origins of the virus may have been from China, from not the Wuhan market, but the Wuhan lab. And now, like, again, whether or not like pulling out like corrects the problem, or if it just means that, okay, now China is going to get to have more influence, that's the debate. But like, yeah, I think the World Health Organization has been like corrupted in many ways. Like there's a lot of ways I didn't like how they respond to COVID, and I kind of get why this is happening. Now, I said something nice about like that's one nice one. There's a couple other ones that like aren't bad, but most the most unconstitutional executive order probably has to be the birthright thing. Ending birthright citizenship. I think that's going to get slapped down, the 14th Amendment. I know people are like, oh, they're not in the jurisdiction, but that's not really true, man. Like the federal the courts have kind of ruled that people who are here, even illegally, are still under the jurisdiction of the United States. So that's not really going to fly. You can't just undermine the 14th Amendment by executive order.
At least we hope he can't. And I agree with you that one was I felt like the most unnecessary one, or the most like most controversial, most like people have been pretty much settled with birthright citizenship for a long time. So I don't know what
Stephen Miller wants to undo it, and their plan is declare a national emergency, say that it's an invasion, say that there's an exemption to the 14th Amendment for birthright citizenship for invading occupying forces, and therefore anyone here illegally is an invader whose children don't get citizenship. But like the way it's written too, it sort of makes it seem like the citizenship of other folks who have been here a long time might be in jeopardy too.
I guess apparently his own children, perhaps.
Yeah, like it's just, I don't know.
So.
It's like it takes things way too far, and it doesn't nothing to actually fix like the issue of chaos in the border. Like it doesn't actually fix that thing.
Right.
It's just
I guess
vindictive and unconstitutional.
It's going to lose in court most likely, and it didn't really deal with any of the issues that he said he wanted to deal with. It just was like a thumb in the eye of people that managed to get here and have kids, I guess.
Yeah, that's basically it. So all right, but what other ones do we want to talk about?
Well, there's a couple of them. Let's go with let me find it. This one's the funniest one.
I have an idea of the funniest one, but
restoring the names that honor American greatness. I mean,
right, we're on the same page about the funniest one.
Yeah, I figured we would be. I just like, bro, I'm actually considering taking a trip to the Gulf of America now, because when it was the Gulf of Mexico, I had no interest in going there at all. And now we're going to rename it to the Gulf. Okay, so look, this order directs the Secretary of the Interior in the next 30 days to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Alaska's Denali Mount McKinley after former President William McKinley. It also orders the appointment of members of the U.S. Board on Geographic Names who will be sympathetic to Trump policies. Like, this is just funny. I don't know. Like, it's not necessary. It's unneeded. It's
weird, empty virtue signaling. I mean, like, this is the most harmless one.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, and he wants to rename for Mount McKinley because, like, he likes McKinley because McKinley liked tariffs at the beginning of his presidency. He didn't by the end, by the way, but like,
well, there you go. Maybe that's a little presidential foreshadowing there. But
yeah,
anyway,
it could be, but
so yeah, there's a certain amount of hilarity to some of the actions that Trump takes. This one to me is like you said, just some kind of weird virtue signaling, and in a way, kind of like an epic troll on the world. I think. I don't know. I can't see any other meaning to it. Like,
there's some things. It's just like they did it just to make Mexico mad.
Yeah, like, it lacks depth. It lacks substance. It's
virtue signaling. That's what it is.
Virtue signaling. It absolutely is.
The right-wing version of virtue signaling. That's it.
That's it, man. And I'm gonna paint the Gulf of Mexico red, white, and blue, brother. Like, amen. Let's go. But I don't know. It's kind of it's funny, Kevin. Really, at the end of the day, is it just is so funny. Like, why was that important? Why did we do that? I have no idea.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Like, I'm sure you like the reinstating service members discharge under the military's COVID-19 vaccination mandate.
I like that one. I do think they deserve to be, some retribution. I wish that we had less military members, sure, but like not under a false like guys there. So I didn't like when they kicked them out. I respected the guys that said, "Hey, I'm not taking this. Go ahead and kick me out." Nice way to end your contract. You know what I mean? If you're like, "All right, I can get a pretty cool job. See you later." But it did seem to me like this is I'm trying to think of the word like they're getting made whole by the government who wronged them, and that's something that we don't often get.
No, not in the lifetime of the people who faced.
There you go. These guys are getting a little bit of justice in their lifetime.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have mixed feelings about that, but
I can understand people having mixed feelings about it. I'm just overall see that as a net positive, and I'm kind of glad about it. Even though they're going to get big, huge, fat paychecks for not having worked for a couple of years, but still, that's fine. Yeah, they deserve it.
I'm trying some of the other ones. So like we got a couple big ones to talk about. So like one's like the DEI one, right?
Yep.
DEI executive order. And then Oh man, what was the other one? I just had it from me and I lost it. But we'll talk about the DEI one. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Arguably, the DEI woke initiative was implemented by executive order under Barack Obama in 2012. And certainly the effective counteract to that is revoking that executive order. On some level, that's what he did here. I think that there isn't that the DEI agenda empowered a narrative that I find to be incredibly divisive, and yet this doesn't necessarily solve that problem, right? Like there's a conundrum here insofar as there could be problems with hiring based on nepotism, based on family orientation, and based on familiarity. There could be a problem with that. Now, to radically realign it and limit the pool of selected talent, to limit a selected talent pool to by any metric or measure will in fact hurt a meritocracy. Like there's almost statistically, it's a real thing. So I kind of like that he did that. I also like the fact that no one can put pronouns in their emails anymore. My God, I hated that.
Well, so they could still put pronouns in their emails, but like now when you create the email, like it doesn't prompt you to like.
But they
put
face
that as part of
right. But they face the death penalty if they do. Right.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. I think I saw that on Twitter, right? Or Blue Sky. You know, it's on Blue Sky. It's all over.
Yeah, something like that. But anyways, so fine. It just felt like a micro authoritarian aggression. I don't know if that makes sense, but it always just annoyed me just a little bit. It's like, yeah, I'm Tim. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to say to your pronouns? You know,
I mean, no, like I think there's a time and place like for some folks like on Twitter, people get mad like pronouns and bio, but some people have like ambiguous like handles, and so like you don't really know, and so you do that and say, yeah, no, I'm a dude, I'm a woman, whatever, right? So I don't really get mad about this stuff. Like I don't care. Like either way, like use it, don't use it, whatever.
Right. That's the proper libertarian approach, and that's basically where I come to rest. Like if you really want to use your pronouns and you're not using it to be aggressive towards me, then I don't care. You know what I mean? Like
just like if you're using it as a clarifying thing and you're not like I don't know. There are people who are obnoxious about it. I get it.
Yeah. Beep bop boop, baby. Bring it back.
Yeah, but so kind of related to that though, and this is the actual important issue that we're probably not going to get to until like the break, is that related to that, Donald Trump demanded a review and a pause of all grant funding from the federal government, in part to make sure that they are in compliance with this executive order. So that means that like in a judge put a stay on this until at least tomorrow. We'll see if that's extended. But basically, there's a lot of organizations. The way this OMB memorandum that went out was like, okay, so like all that's fun, all funding, basically education institutions, medical institutions, aid, all this is under review. And so a lot of places are like all of it, like like is Medicare under review? Is Medicaid under review? Do we get paid this week? They sort of tried to impound like almost the entire federal budget.
Which again, that's another one, Kevin. I want to be very honest. I'm of two minds of this. I think that there is an incredible amount of slushy spending and looting of the treasury going on right now. Like I am 100% confident that is a real thing. That being said, I cannot not exist without recognizing that there are dangers to a blanket withdrawal of funding, especially in cases of hospitals and things like that. Like there's this. I love that an aggressive approach and an aggressive tactic to figure out, all right, we're really going to put the fear of God into people who are breaking the law right now because we're investigating everything. I like that. Because I know it's happening. You know what I mean? And I know that there is shoddy Medicare billing, and there is Medicare is forcing like.
Well, this is just like the DEI compliance thing too, right? Like that's all it is.
Yeah. All right. That's weird.
No, that's all it is. It's just like, okay, until we can figure out if you're complying with this rule, like we're gonna shut down everything. Which like again, I'm for cutting a lot of government spending. A lot of these programs probably should get wound down. However, the president shouldn't be able to just unilaterally do this. The stuff that's appropriated by Congress, right? Like I think that's more dangerous on net to allow the president to just decide to spend or not spend whatever, like regardless of what Congress says. It's more dangerous than to actually spend more money in the short term, and in the long term too. So on that note, though, we are out of time for this segment. So unfortunately, we're going to have to carry on this discussion during the break. Thank you, WYSL audience, for listening. We're going to be back with one more segment after this, the last segment, the final segment. Be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
We didn't get to the point about, I want to bring it home that our legislators are very much in favor of an executive order that they can virtue signal on, or an or a retraction of an executive order, or rather than them having to do the work to legislate these things that they say that they want into law and face the consequences of writing bad legislation that doesn't get passed or costs them their seat, like their gravy train per diem. Like,
they get to just fundraise off of it. Can't believe Donald Trump did this thing. I'm so mad. Donate to my campaign so I could do nothing about it in 2 years when I get reelected.
I can keep cry tweeting on Twitter about it instead of writing a budget to solve some of these freaking problems that I think should be solved.
Like you can. There's a lot of Republicans who are going to be mad about it too. Like, and Donald Trump's a lame duck president. Go do something about it. Like, go prevent the president from imposing the tariffs. Go prevent the president from doing illegal impoundment. Like, I don't know.
Even those things would be seen as a net positive by libertarians. That if the Congress started taking power back away from the executive branch, libertarians won this round too by helping to get Donald Trump elected. It was all part of our master plan,
it's
Kevin.
All part of the plan. It's a little convoluted, but it's coming around. You'll see.
I'm just saying, man, we won so much, many big things.
Time for constitutional authority to be invested back in Congress. I mean, would be great if that happened. Honestly, again, I also would like them to reduce spending. I've also, like, you and I have talked about this. Like, I think when spending, if this actually stopped, like some programs stopped getting funded for months at a time, and they crash out, I think the consequences of doing that long term make it harder for you to cut spending because people freak out and counter react. Again, and I'm all for because Javier Milei, even he's just here are the programs that we can cut funding immediately. Here are the ones that are going to get wound down, right?
Yeah.
The dude had a plan and carried it out, and there was radical cuts to spending, and I'm all for that. And I know some people are still going to be mad about that, oh man, they cut some of it too soon. But there was a plan to do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here's how long you have. This is what it's going to look like. Again, some places you can cut immediately. Just nope, turn a switch, cut them off. And also I'll keep in mind in the situation in Argentina, he had a legislature on his side for that stuff too, right? He had the authority to be able to do that. Unlike the United States, where Congress absolutely could, they're still in a continuing resolution right now. They absolutely could pass a budget right now that cuts all the nonsense they don't like. Are they going to do that? No, they're going to pass another continuing resolution and either praise or get mad at Trump, depending on which team jersey they're wearing.
Correct. And that is the state of affairs. Also, our buddy Legacy Zach's out there. We aren't reducing spending. I suspect
we aren't
probably right. I suspect
there's a bunch of people who are like, we're reducing spending. Honestly, we're probably not.
Look, I get caught in that trap. I'm like, it looks like he's really going to try to reduce spending.
No, it's not.
Baloney. There's no way. It's just not. At the end of the day, he is a spend monster.
That's an important part of the discussion. It sure looks like he's cutting spending, and I've seen people talk about, look at him being a radical cutting spending.
What do you think?
He's really not, though. He's not cutting spending. It's probably not constitutional the way he's doing it.
Yeah.
So not a great way of approaching this.
There's an executive order for an Iron Dome around the United States. I'm sure that is going to be pretty inexpensive. That is not nope. That is not saving us money.
Nope. No, it's that's going to be awesome for creating those defense industry jobs that we really care about, though. It's all part of it. It's all part of it.
Yeah.
Bringing jobs back to America through government spending.
Oh yeah. Well, there we go. That's how. God, it hurts. It just hurts. It just hurts. Oh my God. The Constitution was murdered a long time ago as a document that is supposed to limit the size and the scope of the government and then has begot the world the largest government ever known to man. I'd have to say correct. That is an accurate assessment. Yep. Well,
we're going back to Marbury versus Madison. All right.
He's going way back.
Taking it way back.
He's going
there we go. For those listening
machine.
in the podcast, Legacy Zach on YouTube said, the Constitution was murdered a long time ago, mostly with the addition of judicial review in 1803.
I'd see, and Matthew saying no dome can protect against ICBMs, which is the only thing we would need to be concerned with. I don't know if you've noticed, Matthew, but we're taking a particularly aggressive stance against Mexico and Canada, and perhaps we are going to turn them into terrorist states. I don't know.
It's going to start lobbing rockets over here.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, maybe Trump knows something that we don't.
Yeah, just sending rockets over. Sorry.
I'm joking, sort of, but also yet maybe am I not? Like literally, I think there's an executive order that calls out the cartels as terrorist organizations or wants to investigate them as terrorist organizations.
Well, you know why he's doing that? Because then he can use the authorization of use of military force and use that to fight terrorism in Mexico. And that's the justification for invading Mexico. That's
all we need, man, is a justification. As long as we go right, we move our border right to the other side of the Panama Canal. I'm fine with it.
That's the whole plan. Like it all ties together, man. That's it's funny. There's a bunch of folks who because we run in these circles who are like, hey, no, listen, Obama wants to create the North American Union. He's trying to erase these borders.
Yeah.
And those same people are like, yeah, what Donald Trump's doing, trying to add Canada to the 51st state, it's awesome. I'm like, guys,
I don't know.
It's literally what he's doing.
They are not particularly libertarian in Canada, and I think that we might want to think about that.
You want to get a dozen new blue state senators? Cool. Like that's what's going to happen.
46 to 47 deep blue representatives. Like, do we really want that? I mean, so we give them some sort of junior citizenship where they get no representation, kind of the relationship we have with Puerto Rico.
Just give them a little taxation without representation. That's
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Like Zach says, we could take a we could take. They don't have a military. Okay, we could take the whole country just by saying it's our country now.
Canada has a military. Go look. Canadians are fond of inventing war crimes.
I'm not saying they're not afraid to commit war crimes and they don't have guns. They don't have a military equal to the United States military. That's what I'm saying. They did burn down the White House, though. I got to give them credit for that. That was nice of them. They did it. Like it happened. Yeah.
No, but I don't know. It seems like a bad idea. Don't want to invade Canada or Greenland. We missed so many weeks of the show. We didn't even talk about the Greenland insanity.
That is something I was like working and I was regretting I didn't get to like pontificate about Greenland and all of these things that he's doing that are just, I don't know. They're probably not just troll-tastic. But they are like epic level trolling, and there could be an end game where Greenland benefits from a relationship with the United States and the Danes can have a hissy fit about it and we can just chuckle.
I don't know, man. Like, basically, like, as soon as that stuff started coming out, the Danes were like, you want more military bases there? Sure. Like, we'd rather have you there than other folks. And Donald Trump's like, no, we're going to take it. No, they're busy subsidizing all the people who actually live there, and we get all the military bases. If you actually care about like that, unless you're like, you want to serve your ego, like I've expanded the territory of the United States. That's the only thing. But like from a military perspective, the Danes are like, heck yeah, put your bases up there. Go nuts, guys. And like Donald Trump's like, no, not good enough. We need to own it. And we need to, again, what we'd end up doing is subsidizing the people who live there. That's all that would happen. There's no benefit to owning it all.
I agree. It's a big rock, big, cold, frozen rock. There's $37 trillion worth of minerals there, though. But we should just go to the moon. Are you reading that Jared Anderson comment?
Oh, there we go. So someone asked if arguing Constitution with those who want to break it is a waste of effort. Thoughts?
My thought is that a lot of Americans get very authoritative when they're arguing in favor of the Constitution exists. And I'm kind of like, well, there's lots of pieces of the Constitution, like the income tax that were not passed with ideal representation or what I would call carefully delineated popular support. Okay, so like when we get into arguing the Constitution, I always just say, like, look, the Bill of Rights works for me, and if you got a problem with that, we got a real problem, buddy.
So I think part of what Jared's saying here, though, is that, like, if I'm talking with someone who's like full on MAGA, Trump can do nothing wrong, folks, or like the other side, like the people who said Biden could do nothing wrong, which I've been on a different radio show talking to someone about that, who are like, I don't really care what the Constitution says. Might makes right. If we can do this, then why shouldn't we do it right? Is it a waste of time to argue with someone who's like that, who doesn't actually care if they follow the Constitution? And I would say it depends, right? Like if I am arguing with someone in the living room of my own house, am I going to convince them? Like maybe, but if I'm arguing with them on a radio show where we have an audience, I think that it is still worth the effort to make the argument that the Constitution is worth following and protecting, that the rule of law is worth following and protecting. And this is the argument. You're going to hear me make the same thing if we're still doing this about Trump that I made about Biden, which is like when Biden was doing unconstitutional things, when he was trying to, with the stroke of a pen, eliminate student debt. Again, spend money without permission. When he was trying to, at stroke of a pen, like impose COVID vaccine requirements. When he did all sorts of stuff. When he tried to do that with tariffs too. It's worth making the argument to normal people who think like, yeah, the Constitution is still mostly good, and it's bad if the president is exceeding his authority in creating law by himself. I think that argument is still worth making for most normal people, right?
I certainly would make that argument if it was in the living room of my house. I certainly would make that argument and try to get people to respect the notion that the Bill of Rights at the heart of the Constitution is what's actually a little bit more important. But to have a governing document versus a semi-emotional virtue signaling accumulation of human beings is it like. There is value in saying these are our standards and this is what we should stick to.
Yeah.
And you're ruining it.
I still like the concept of a republic, right? And I know Legacy Zach on YouTube says Congress is retarded though. Okay. Yes.
True.
Yeah. I mean, like I get it. Like Congress is obnoxious. They stink. I get it. I think the institution of Congress is still a worthwhile pursuit, though. I think the structure of our constitutional government is still generally good. It just needs a kick in the pants to be a bit better. We need like grown-ups to like get elected to Congress and to take their responsibility seriously and not just hang around, fundraise, and try to win the next election. Like we need them to take their responsibility seriously and to get back to our constitutional roots. I know Congress can be frustrating, but the alternative, as Winston Churchill says, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. I generally believe that about republics. It's frustrating and it can get corrupted, but also it's better than the alternative.
Qualified agreement, 100%. Not 100%. Qualified agreement, absolutely.
Yeah. You occasionally like, can we just get a good king?
Can't we just get a lazy, disinterested monarch for a few years? I mean, Monaco's doing fine. Goes. You know what I mean? Like, great.
Yeah, if so, like Trump, but like maybe like doing a little bit less.
Yeah, that would be fine. And motivating the Congress to actually write legislation that would bring some of the power back to the Congress for it to be debated, for issues like war and violence and funding things overseas to be debated on the floor. That is their responsibility. They have abrogated that responsibility. Thank you, George W. Bush, for turning me into a libertarian. You pile of human garbage.
Fair, man. Fair.
Yeah.
No. I hear you. So we eventually we do have to get back to the last segment of our show, and I'm sure we'll continue the conversation a little bit afterwards. But this, all right, and let's see. Yeah, we'll go back in like 15 seconds.
All right.
And yeah, let's do the last one. Let's go. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm still here, brother. And look, guys, the radio show, I think one of the things that Kevin enjoyed most about our show is some of the interactions that we have with the people in the audience while we're not on the radio show. I find that to be enlightening. We were going down a constitutional wormhole. I hope that even though this is our last radio broadcast, that you guys will join Kevin and I in the future at A Free Solution. You can find it anywhere on YouTube, on all of the podcast platforms. It's available. We'd love to have you guys come aboard and join in our live discussions. That being said, we're going to miss you dearly. And again, thank you to WYSL for helping us out through the years.
Yeah,
we have I have some predictions that are going to be pretty interesting. That's the last segment of the show, Kevin.
Yeah,
what do you
last segment. So again, WYSL, thank you, and thank you to the audience again. If you're listening to this on the radio show, you missed a 15-minute discussion about like the Constitution and more executive order stuff. So make sure you go find that and subscribe just to keep up with what we're doing. Yeah. So my let's see. I will give my I'll give my pessimistic prediction.
Okay.
Which is that I think the Democrats are going to become even more illiberal in response to the Trump presidency. Illiberal, in the sense of like not liking freedom. And the reason why I say that is because I've started to see, like, I follow the liberals and they're like, hey, like we need to do this, but there's a bunch of folks who are like, this is so bad, we can't let democracy produce these results again. Like I've seen some of that. And we saw some of that like during COVID, right? Like, no, you guys, and like it's been a thing building up to this, right? Which is that there are a lot of folks who are like, no, we need to control misinformation. Like the freak out over like the, like Facebook ending fact checking a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, that was
like, oh man, like gosh, we have to like. What we can't survive without the fact checkers. Otherwise, people are just gonna believe ridiculous stuff, and they might make the wrong decisions based on bad information. Like, you mean like when the fact checkers like didn't allow us to like have a discussion about the origins of COVID and just shut down all conversation, even when that turned out to be right, or when the fact checkers wouldn't allow us to discuss Hunter Biden's laptop? Those folks, and there's a bunch of great like journalism on like some of the Black Lives Matter stuff, like the situation around like Kenosha, and how all the fact checkers got like a lot of stuff around that wrong.
Yeah. And
but there's a lot of Democrats who are like, it doesn't matter. You've still arrived at the wrong conclusion. And the evidence of that is that you reelected Donald Trump. So that's my pessimistic take, is I see a little bit of that, and I'm hoping it doesn't go that direction, but like there's a deep illiberal strain of Democrats who say, and I've even seen like people like Jon Stewart say stuff like this, where it's like, look, the Republicans, like when they get into power, they don't wait for doing everything by the rules, they just act. Why can't Democrats do the same? So I think we're going to get more of that. Not that it stopped like people like Joe Biden be like, equal rights amendment. It's an amendment now. What do you, no, you can't do. What are you talking about, man?
Nope, it's not.
Go to bed. Go to bed, Joe.
Stop it. Just stop it.
You have a 24 hours left in your presidency. Knock it off.
That was also a little piece of hilarity that we didn't get to talk about in a timely fashion. Look, I have to comment on your predictions. I'm afraid that you're correct. But what I think is that Jared Anderson and I had talked about it a few times, is that are we going to, enter into an age of far right kind of authoritarianism, or are we going to go anti-establishment, pro-individual rights, like heavy hand of government time? And I always want to be an optimist, even though I'm very harshly critical of the things that I see going on in the government, regardless of what color suits they wear, and who they're representing, who they are really representing. So I have a prediction that perhaps Congress will be successful in starting to craft a budget again, in pulling away some executive powers from the president as Trump steamrolls through his bull in the China shop ways of forcing issues down people's throats, which I find hilarious, but also dangerous and obnoxious.
No, sometimes it is funny. Other times it's like, oh man, gosh, we should have some competent people running this though. Like it's just
It would be better.
I don't really get what it is.
Yeah. So on this tariff debate, I think that a bit of gamesmanship is going on. A bit of like he's looking for some concessions on certain issues. And I'm not even sure if I would want to pontificate on what I think those issues are. But I think that if Mexico and Canada make some verbal commitments to doing certain things regarding immigration and certain things regarding the war on drugs, I think that this tariff thing is short-lived. Now, the one with China, though, a conundrum keeps coming back to me, Kevin. So the prediction I'm making is that this tariff issue is short-lived, that we come to a relatively rapid resolution, that some of this will spark custom manufacturing in the United States, which I find hopefully that will find value. If it resparks, that will find values in ways of staying out of their way so that we can continue to lead the world in what I'm calling custom manufacturing, small parts manufacturing. The guy that I saw in Hartford, Connecticut, and the whole block around him all look like these small manufacturers producing very interesting parts and offering services that you don't get to find anywhere else, like rechroming things or repairing, like all of these things have value that are threatened by environmentalism, that are threatened by expensive energy. And I think that if we get concessions in certain areas, I think that this concern about tariffs will go away, that the tariffs will be dropped, that we can get to a freer. I want free trade with Mexico. I don't want a war with Mexico. That's absurd.
Yeah.
Okay. I want a realization that the war on drugs is a failure and that upgrading the war on drugs to taking on cartels as a terrorist organization is an insane idea. It's literally, I mean, I think we could beat them, but then who's going to make the coke, Kevin? You know what I mean? Like we've got to work these details out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that trying to like even if we could like beat them, we'll beat them like we beat like the Taliban, right? Like
we didn't really. Yeah, we'll fight the Taliban for 20 years, and here you go, Taliban. You're in charge.
Yep.
Here's the keys to our vehicles. Bye.
Yep. Here's all of our equipment. Good luck.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so what I do hope you're right that Congress like reasserts its authority, that like individualism becomes more ascendant. I hope you're right on all that stuff. I hope like the reaction is like sort of like the reaction to like the abuses of the Nixon administration back in like the 70s, right? Like the reaction of Congress was like, oh, we have to pass the War Powers Resolution and we need to hold the executive branch more accountable. And like you started to see that swing in that direction of like Congress actually doing its job for like a minute. But
or a minute or two.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like in my worry with like the tariff things, right? Like, so part of it's like I get like Trump might get some concessions out of this, right? Like, he maybe get some concessions out of Canada, whatever he's looking for. Out of Mexico, like on immigration, like they put more resources into immigration. From Denmark, like whatever he's trying to get, right? But the thing is, like every time you do that, people like Canadians, Mexicans, the Danish, they all have their own nationalism. They don't like being put in that position either. So like it just ratchets up the mistrust every single time. So trying to make like cooperative relationships work like long term, it's harmful and it increases the opportunity of actual conflict breaking out. So like short term, he might win, but like long term, like the Canadian government now is like, man, what happens if like, okay, sure, you elect Jared Polis next time, but then like JD Vance comes back and is going to flip the table again, right? Like, can we trust, like, can we put our economy in a position to have to trust the United States not to freak out again, right? And so with Canada, right, like they're probably going to work with the United States because they have a very long border with us, and there's like a lot of businesses to operate back and forth. I work with Canadians all the time in my day job. Yeah, but like, other countries, like they're going to be looking at this, like like. Probably not Argentina, but there's a lot of other countries who are like, okay, if the United States isn't reliable long term and I need an economy that I can sell my goods to that has enough money, do I just work closer with China? Right? Like, do I work closer with like other countries because like the United States is just unstable for a while until that trust is rebuilt. Maybe we just don't put our eggs in that basket. That's the worry long term is that like, yeah, you get short term concessions, but long term, like, do people try to diversify, their economies and move away from like working closer with the United States?
I do think that there's a threat, as I've stated before on the show, and I want everyone in the WSL audience to think about free trade is anti-violence. If we have interdependence and we're not operating under the preconceived notion that somehow numbers like going to your supermarket is a trade imbalance, that we can have a peaceful future going forward. And to me, that's important. Now, I do have a conundrum about China, Kevin, and I want to get the libertarian solution for it. And I know you're the guy that can give it to me.
All right.
Chinese communists use some version of slave labor all over their country. Okay. We are buying products that are subsidized by slavery. Okay. How do we, as libertarians, fix that without a tariff? A tariff to me, like 1,000% tariff, would be almost too cheap to because we're subsidizing slave labor. How do we force China into better relationships with its citizens because they want to sell its goods? I think there's a way, but what do you think?
I mean, are you thinking of the conversation with who was it, Tim Pool and Brad Palumbo about this?
Yes, yeah.
So they had this discussion.
That was a good conversation, I thought. By the way,
yeah, interesting conversation there.
Interesting.
So it got a bit out of hand. But kind of in relation to that, I think my response is kind of similar to Brad's, which is that like there are actual concerns, right? And like that American companies should have an obligation to make sure that they're sourcing their materials from places that have ethical work practices, right? And if there are individual companies who are like companies in China, like we know the government has their hands in everything, but if they're engaging in like slave labor, I think it is fine to say, like, from the American government perspective, to say, no, you can't buy from that company anymore. Like you have, X amount of time to go in and like find a new source.
Right.
Because like we shouldn't be supporting any company that is engaging in actual slavery. I think that's totally fair. Or, and again, if the government of China is allowing this to exist, like having tariffs on that, it's also like the intellectual property thing. Like I sort of get like, hey, they're doing things like stealing American IP, which is probably where DeepSeek came from, and engaging in slave labor. Yeah, punishing those companies that are engaging in that stuff, or punishing like China generally for engaging in that stuff, I think is a better argument for like intervention by the government than like what we're seeing on the Canada and Mexico side.
I agree. I do get the concept that we have to force better behavior I get the concept. A better concept is that we legalize that stuff. I get the concept under the notion that we're trying to protect Americans from the war on drugs, that Mexico is complicit with cartels, allowing them to produce products and ship them here under however they're getting them here. Okay, so I get that concept. The solution, short term, could be tariffs. Long term, end the war on drugs. Nobody is ready to hear end the war on drugs.
We should end the war on drugs.
It's a big part of it. I have a friend. I used to get along with him really well. I still think he's a good guy. He lost his son to fentanyl, Kevin. You're not going to be able to tell a guy like that we need to end the war on drugs. And he hates Donald Trump. Okay. But he does not want the war on drugs to end. And he would like to see Mexico, the Mexican cartels who are being blamed for the uptick in fentanyl in the United States, to be punished and taken out of business. He would support a war with the cartel. You see what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know. It's tough again, like especially when it affects your family like that. Like when you lose a son, like it's awful. You want to get revenge, but I would say, like, despite that, still not as a whole good policy, right? Like the ending the war on drugs as a whole would be better for everyone's less money, less bloodshed, and like a better system in which you're able to get people treatment when they become addicted and understand like what you're actually putting into your body and stuff like that, right? We have like 30 seconds of the show left, so we're not gonna be able to
I ended on a banger.
Yeah, I know, right? And the war on drugs. All right. I mean, that as any libertarian show should end, it should be talking about ending the war on drugs.
Correct.
So again, on that note, it's been a privilege. It's been awesome. Love WISL audience. You guys are great. We'll miss doing this radio show, and hopefully this is a temporary goodbye, not a permanent goodbye, but we're so glad we could do this.
Yeah, thank you all very much from the bottom of my heart.
All right. Well, take care, folks. Have a great night, and thank you for listening to A Free Solution.
That was depressing.
I know, right?
That's sad. It's the end of an era, an epoch.
It is.
Guys, yeah, I mean, I think we're still going to be doing stuff like this. I like doing stuff like this. I hope you and I can figure out times when we can do not the radio show per se, but a Free Solution podcast and share our conversations with our friends and hopefully, continue to grow this thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew.
Matt, thank you for listening. Shelly, thank you for listening. Appreciate y'all. Got Alice out there, Legacy Zach.
Thank you, good sir. Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Appreciate the thanks. It's great.
Yeah, so that's fun. Again, we're still gonna do the podcast occasionally. It's just the end of the radio show for now. And like I said, maybe I can convince my wife to work 60 hours a week and get a job that makes several $100,000 a year, and like she could just be my sugar mama, and
that would be awesome.
I just make podcasts.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I will inform my wife of this plan afterwards. I can hear the baby yelling though, so she's not going to be super receptive to it right now, I think.
You get right in there and take care of that baby for her and say, "Look, I came up with this idea. You're gonna love it."
Yeah.
All right,
would you like me to take care of the baby all the time?
Yeah. All right, brother. I got to pack. I got to get ready to leave at 3:00 in the morning. And that's the burden of the show. That's the burden of me and this show is, it's been a struggle. It's always felt worth it.
Yeah.
And the future is bright. Somebody's been watching PBD. Okay, get that guy out of here.
Future's bright.
Yeah, Zach, keep doing what you're doing, brother. I appreciate your effort out there. All right. We'll talk to you guys all soon.
Yep. Take care, folks. Bye.